We will start in 1 minute. We are live in broadcasting. Okay, so welcome everyone. I would like to thank you for joining us today for our Advancing Online Corporate Training with Virtual Labs. As you can see, today we will have one main speaker, Ilya Baimetov, who is a Chief Product Officer at SIT Alemira. So Ilya, thank you for joining us today. I would like now to hand over to you and to explain a little bit more about how actually corporation businesses can use virtual labs to improve their corporate trainings, employee onboarding, and client onboarding. So the stage is all yours.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see all of you here at the webinar. Welcome to the SIT and Alemira ecosystem. So Alemira is a product that is part of the SIT ecosystem. SIT is Schaffhausen Institute of Technology. It's a startup university that we've recently started to build in Schaffhausen, Switzerland, and also several other locations currently across mostly in Europe, such as Bremen, Germany, and Siena, Italy. And let me tell you a little bit first about the SIT itself. So this is SIT, Schaffhausen Institute of Technology, as I said. Science, technology, and education is a $10 trillion market. And it's a big market. Everybody wants to get educated, of course. And when people get education, they will go to, many of them go to technology sector and start innovation, start innovative projects and some startups. So all of that we want to do at SIT. So the SIT consists of, real estate, buildings and such. We also provide education. We currently have master program in Schaffhausen, and we have a full functioning accredited university in Bremen. We also provide science transformation services for companies and enterprises who want to who want to utilize technologies, advanced technologies and science to improve their operations and to improve their products. We at SIT also will do spin-offs and startups and using our own accelerator and the venture fund. The idea is that our students, our graduates, alumni, when they come up, when they sort of want to do a project, want to do a startup, they will come to us and we'll help them. And of course, learning in the university management system, which is mostly what Alemira is, right? So the modern university needs to be a sort of a digitally transformed institution that doesn't just have their processes in a computer, but actually functions in a way that is dramatically more efficient. It uses technology to be dramatically more efficient than the regular university. We're planning to fund this university to the amount of anywhere from $100 to $300 million in the next 10 years. We're planning to achieve about $1 billion revenue in approximately the same time frame, with about hopefully $10 billion market cap. We'll have 2 to 3 big campuses around the globe, and those are going to be big campuses, as you can see. So next slide, please. SIT consists of 2 parts, nonprofit and for-profit, right? So nonprofit part is the university itself, of course. That's where we teach students, where we educate people, we do research, and do all sorts of fun activities like that. But to fund this, to fund the university, we need to make money. And the way how we are going to make money is basically we go into one part is creating startups, funding them, and getting return on this investment. And the second part is commercial companies that make products and services for the external markets. And SIT Alemira, which is number 7 on this list, is one of those companies. Next, please. So what is SIT Alemira? To run a university, to run a university, you need a system, right? You need a computer system. University primarily deals with 3 things. First one is learning. So you actually need to have professors, students, and you need to transfer knowledge between them. You know, they need to learn from one another. From students learn not necessarily just from professors, but from the peers too, from other students. From researchers that work in that university, and so on. So basically, the process of learning. Second is education management, or you can say education administration, meaning that you need to manage this organization, right? So you need to know who's your faculty, who are the researchers, you know what they're doing, what courses do you teach, what program do you teach. So basically, all sorts of inventory and databases and directories and you know, people and places and things and stuff like that. And the third part is the science or research management. Some part of the university, significant part that drives innovation, is the research conducted by the faculty and you know, all sorts of students of all stages, right, from undergrads, maybe rarely, but definitely master and PhD and postgraduate students. This process also, these kind of research activities can also be significantly improved using modern technologies. Next, please. So SIT Alemira, like I said, the SIT Alemira is a product line that manages the entire university as an organization and as a set of people and processes and activities, right? So what are the educational trends that we are seeing currently globally in the world? Actually, this is applicable for all educational institutions, maybe not even just higher education, maybe to all of them, starting from, you know, K-12 to the schools, and you know, also these trends are, we can see them at work, at the corporate environment, and also the sort of education you get on the side, which is not necessarily institutionalized yet. So education you get from third-party companies, right? So okay, so first trend is digital transformation, right? Which is at the very least, all education is going online or blended, meaning that even if you do most of your you know, teaching and learning face-to-face, you gotta have an online version of the same thing, right? So which was accelerated by COVID significantly, but at the same time, it's not just COVID. I think that trend was going increasingly increasing over the years with advent of MOOCs, you know, Coursera's of the world, and various boot camps like, I don't know, code.org or something like that. And it was just accelerated significantly by the pandemic. So it's about going online. It's about using better technology to maybe do something that was not possible before, or maybe do some of the activities, some of the processes, organize them in a much more efficient way. And of course, which I already mentioned, more efficient operations, right? The second trend is new credentials. So we're all getting education in smaller chunks right now, which doesn't mean that your base education is in the form of a bachelor, or master, or PhD is going away anytime soon. No, but it is currently, it is really just a base of your, just sort of a basis of your future career, right? So 50 years ago, for example, you go to a college, you get a degree, and that's basically it, right? So you stay there for your entire life. You rarely, I mean, you go to conferences, maybe if you're a scientist, that's true. But if you're a professional, you basically stay there for your entire life almost. And currently, the playing field is much more dynamic. The landscape is much more dynamic. the workforce situation is changing much more quickly. So if you want to stay current, or if you want to stay at the top of your game, you have to re-educate yourself. You have to take a lot of classes on the side, and this is what this is about, right? So we're getting education in smaller chunks. So we constantly trying to learn something new. Many people do it even without realizing it, like by watching videos on YouTube or maybe reading some tweets or Facebook pages of some experts in the field. But more formally, of course, you can say there is Coursera, right? Or there is Udemy or something like that, right? Which give you an opportunity to take a course or two courses, maybe overview courses on some subjects, without actually distracting yourself completely from work. Like you don't need to, quit your job and spend, another 2 years in the college, right? You can do it all in the evenings after work, or maybe a couple hours a day, even during at work. And most of the courses actually even designed to be taken like that. They even specify in the description that they will take 5 hours a week or something like that. And of course, these form of education credentials quickly become certified, right? So you actually get a certificate. So Coursera gives certificates. Google, for example, Google provides certificates in partnership with Coursera for their kind of version of professional education. And the third trend, finally, is lifetime learning, right? So all of that, going online and new credentials enable us to learn our entire life. So we can essentially, work-related, a hobby or entertainment, but we can learn for as long as we live, right? For not a lot of money, because it's all online, it doesn't cost a lot of money, and because it's all in smaller chunks, we can just do it, on our spare time. And quite a few people actually even change careers, right, over the course of their life currently. And I think this will be enabled even further, and these transitions will be even better and smoother with digital transformation and new credentials. Next, please. Right. So what are the challenges that Alemira is trying to address, right, as a product? So we see this in a higher education environment, in school environment, but also in a corporate environment. It's just the same. We see that to move online, to go online, we need to create a lot of content, right? And not just create. We need to maintain it, to update it, to keep it up to date. And this is a big problem. Engagement is another big problem. So if you ever taken a course on Coursera, I mean, it's wonderful that these courses are there, but there are very few people. Officially, I think Coursera once published numbers. It's for like less than 10 or even less than 5% of people who signed up to the course, signed up for the course, they actually finish it. And on many occasions, very often, the reason is that courses are just very, very boring, because it's just watching videos and basically maybe answering a few multiple choice questions here and there, in between. And engagement also suffers because this, unlike the real college, right, the real, even at the workplace, right, this online mode of education is not very engaging, because people communicate less and people collaborate less, because they don't see each other, don't talk to each other face to face, don't meet each other. And this is this is a big obstacle in the way of creating a really effective, a really productive and meaningful online education. And finally, operations. So integration of different systems is very costly, right? So student information system, financial ERP, HR, learning management system, LMS, all sorts of labs. They're they often come from different vendors. They're very expensive to integrate. Most processes are still manual. I mean, they're in the computer. Like, for example, instead of passing stacks of paper from one department to another, right? So some time ago, people decided that we're going to scan all these papers and we're going to email PDFs to each other or just put them on a shared file system. So this doesn't really change the process itself, right? Which goes back to my point of digital transformation. It's not really, I mean, you digitize something, but it's not really a transformed, so to speak, transformed organization or transformed workplace, right? So the processes need to change, and systems are not very proactive. Again, meaning that you need to do a whole lot of work manually before actually to achieve something. Also in specifically for training and higher education, for example, you have people called TAs, teaching assistants, or in corporate education, there will be trainers, and you need a lot of them to actually provide meaningful feedback to the students, right? So to check their homework or to check their work and to provide some kind of meaningful feedback. Those people cost a lot of money, and it's just, yeah, it's just not very efficient operation. Next, please. So the way we're addressing this is Alemira as a solution is this, right? So for the content, we try to make the process of content creation and maintenance like super easy and super quick. Basically, we're trying to achieve like a really breakthrough efficiency, like 10x at least. So for example, instead of recording somebody giving a lecture, we are actually building a simulated human, an avatar that you can just provide a text and it will speak in your own voice with your own image, but maybe in a different languages with proper lip syncing and proper intonation, proper prosody. Lab recorder, which sort of directly relates to the labs, to the corporate trainings. We're trying to make the process of recording lab exercises like product exercises for software products like super easy and super quick. Interactive models, marketplaces for sharing parts of the courses and maybe even blocks of the courses or blocks of the trainings that you came up with. Engagement. This is mostly for higher ed, so I'm not gonna talk a lot about that, but most important part of here is the intelligent tutor, right? So which is also applicable to corporate trainings. Basically, a computer agent that gives you immediate and meaningful feedback on your actions while you're learning, that allows you to just significantly reduce involvement of humans in this kind of whole feedback process, right? So TAs that I was just talking about. And finally, operations, it's automated grading, it's instant deployment, it's seamless integration between the parts. Yeah, so that's basically, these are the solutions. How Alemira approaches solving the challenges that I mentioned on the previous slide. Next, please. Right, so these are the products we have, and today we're going to mostly focus on the labs. Next. Right, so virtual labs. The premise of the virtual lab, right? So what you actually need to, most trainings at the workplace, they're about teaching people how to use a certain system, certain software product, right? And there are two parts in there. One part is teaching the users, right? And teaching regular users how to use that product, and the second part is often training your IT department how to integrate with this product, right? So how to write code that connects this system to other systems in your corporation. So coding lab is specifically for this kind of stuff, right? So you actually come up with a set of exercises that they need to do, and the system will write code right there in the system. You don't need to deploy and install anything. There is an IDE built in, and students can just write code, and the system will automatically verify if the code works, if the code runs. And the second thing is a virtual lab. So this is for end users, and this is really kind of this is the product that's applicable for a wide audience, right? So for all of the end users, and essentially what it does, right? Instead of showing your employees like short videos, short how-to videos, like how to do this, how to that, how to create a user, how to create a tenant, how to configure a backup plan, how to, I don't know, do something, which people kind of watch maybe, and maybe they learn something from it, but actually there is no reinforcement, right? So because they don't actually do it immediately, or at least you don't, you sort of not, I wouldn't say forcing them, but you do not kind of lead them to immediately practice what they just learned. These kind of knowledge, this kind of knowledge just goes away very quickly, right? Or it does not even become a knowledge. It's just an information that kind of passes through. The solution here is to give them something that they can use to exercise what they just learned, right? So give them a practical, a lab to do. Where they will be doing something using the actual live system that they were training to use. And so two aspects here, right? So one is that we structure this whole kind of learning as a step-by-step exercises that the person needs to do. Every step has a clear success criteria, and exercise as a whole also has a success criteria, which allows the system to automatically check the results and grade, right? So one way to approach is that you just let people do it, and if they cannot, you grade them. So if you give them, I don't know, lower marks for not being able to do certain things. Well, another way to do it is you actually don't let anybody fail, right? But you sort of watch how hard was that for them to pass certain step. But in the end, the grading is completely automated, and students receive their grades immediately, right? And also at each step, the system can, using the intelligent tutor, the system can give the student a feedback and maybe give them a hint how to proceed if they're sort of repeat if they keep making mistakes and cannot proceed further. Next, please. But the biggest challenge usually for the labs is creating them, right? So that's why you have these companies that train people online at the computer, and they still cost quite a bit of money. They train them on the same set of products like Microsoft Office, Amazon Web Services, right, Azure, and all that kind of stuff. And they typically creating these installations takes a lot of time, not because deploying something takes a lot of time, but actually because creating these exercises takes a lot of time, because usually it requires, if you want to automate verification and grading, right, and if you want to do this step by step, it actually requires you to write a lot of code to actually produce these exercises. So instead, what we do is this. It's called a recorder, and it's creating exercises by example. So essentially, an instructor would just sit in front of a computer, and they would just go through this activity that they need to train others to do, right? So, for example, here's about, I think, creating a tenant in a Acronis product, right? So what the instructor does, instructor basically indicates to the system, I am going to record a lab called create a tenant, right? And then they just start clicking through the interface, right? And the system figures out automatically what they're doing, right? So you can see here is that click the new button. So the instructor clicks the new button. System basically says, click a new button. That's the action required, right, to create a new tenant.
Ilya? Can you hear us again?
Yes, I can. Yes, sorry about that. So it's some kind of
No worries.
some kind of technical difficulties. Okay, so connection interruption. And when you finish something on a screen, right, and you click like a submit or whatever button on the screen, these actions are grouped into this kind of step, which you can see on the right screen, right? So essentially, what we're seeing here, right? System records what instructor is doing and automatically creates an exercise based on that. So it's a structured one, and system kind of figures out what the buttons are, what their meaning are, by all sorts of, by parsing the HTML, by, you can actually edit it later and make it like better looking or whatever. But we're trying to do as much parsing, and I don't just mean like HTML parsing, like not literally, but also kind of figuratively. We're just trying to parse the environment and figure out as much as we can from the application so that all the actions sound meaningful. And next slide, please. And after you're done recording, right? So you can provide certain hints. You can edit certain things, and you can provide hints. For example, like here, right? So you can do like insert a screenshot here to to be shown to the user, to the student, if they cannot, if they sort of were having difficulties going through the steps. So if they're stuck, system will resort to showing the hints. And you can this process is actually you can configure this process of giving hints to the users. And after everything is done, right, you can still make certain adjustments and make it like just look better. But the best part is that you don't have to script anything, or I mean, like writing code, right, whatever, JavaScript or something, creating this exercise, just to click through. So you click, and there is a lab created for you. But the best part is that we actually, what we do afterwards, so what we do afterwards, we try to create variations of this exercise for different students, right? So this will be an example that is shown to them, or the trainer maybe will actually do it in front of them, right? Do this click, or we can actually record a video and do this kind of video instruction as an intro part if it's a completely trainer-less situation, just online. But then the tasks that or the assignment that will, the lab that will be given to the users will be different. For example, we will if you need to create a user, I don't know, John and Derek, for example, right? We will change. I mean, if the instructor did that, we will change it to in the assignment in the lab for the user. It will be create users, let's say Joanna and Sarah, right? And so on and so forth. So we will change the certain parameters that can be changed without violating the semantics or the sort of the meaning of the exercises. We will try to still create some kind of variation so that users do not just have to kind of blindly repeat whatever they were doing. Right, and next slide, please. Right, and to conclude this, I'll just mention quickly what other parts we have in the learning part, right? So we have the avatar, which is, like I said, this is synthetic human. Here you see the Nobel Prize winner in physics who got his prize for inventing graphene and for doing research with graphene. And we can basically, we have a prototype that, he has a few lectures recorded on YouTube, and we have some transcripts, and we have a prototype that shows that person delivering his material in his voice with his image, but in German, with proper lip syncing. Next one. Yeah, so LMS is a shell, as you know, is like a operating environment, right? From which everything starts and where everything ends in the learning process. whether it's a corporate education or higher education. So we provide that too. And next. Practicum, which is on top of the labs, right? You can organize trainings or educations as a longer term projects. If, for example, if a system that they are building is kind of complex, or for example, if you're training your internal IT department on how to do integrations, right? And this is like a kind of relatively complex project which consists of multiple parts. This kind of project-based paradigm is implemented in the practicum. So you have projects with milestones that students or trainees will go through, and instructor creates assignments for each for each project for each student. And there are also collaboration tools available for very seamless instant collaboration. I mean, it's sort of kind of same tools like chat and video conferencing, but we tried to create a user experience such that it's very, very easy and seamless for people to engage in collaboration and actually do and collaborate with each other. And we modified these tools to sort of to work much better in this kind of collaborative environment paradigm. Next, please.
Okay, so we came to the point where we have some questions, and I already actually got some of them on our YouTube channels. So the first one says, how can corporate companies train their partners by using SIT Alemira? We cannot hear you.
There are usually there are usually two scenarios, right? So one scenario is that you have your own product that you sell through the partners, or you provide the partners with, which is kind of the case with Acronis, for example. Our kind of I don't know how to say that, we the company some of us worked for before. So they build a product that they sell through the partner channel, and partners need to be trained on this. So Acronis has a Acronis provides online trainings using Alemira to the partners, and they can train their technicians on this portal to use Acronis products, right? So that's the first. And Acronis has thousands and thousands of these partners, and each of them employs dozens and dozens of employees. So Alemira is already working at a large scale. Second, I think, second scenario is that there is a product. For example, your partners are your, I don't know, implementation partners or whatever, and you need to train them all on and your company, right, on using a certain product that is not yours. Again, same thing you can do. So you can sort of come up with a set of exercises and publish it for your partners and create these trainings accessible for your partners. Okay.
Thank you, Ilya. Another question is, how is SIT Alemira Active and Coding Lab different from each other?
How is SIT Alemira is different from a coding lab?
How, I guess the question was like how virtual and coding labs are different from each other.
Okay. I see, got it. So virtual lab, right, is a system that you need to explore, so to speak, right? So you have a system running in a lab in a virtual environment, but it's a real system, and you train people on using this system. Coding lab is about writing code, so you train how to write code. In quite a few cases, whether both corporate and higher education, you actually have to use a combination of both. Like I said, for example, if you're training your IT department to create integrations with other systems, right, you would have to you would have both the systems you're integrating with, right, to be running somewhere in some kind of virtual environment, but you also need some coding capability, right? So to write code and actually run it against the system. So but this is how they're different, right? So virtual lab is about the system itself, and coding lab is about some kind of code that's controls other systems. Okay.
Thank you. One more question that we got is, it says like, are practicum and labs connected to each other? Can both the services function individually, or a company has to invest in both?
They can function individually. So like I said, so again, lab is an exercise you give to the students, right? So to do, and you can just embed them into LMS. I mean, you do need to have an LMS, right? The whole kind of shell, the sort of the kind of the portal or whatever it's called, and it can be either Alemira LMS or it can be a third-party LMS like the Chibo for corporate environment, which is the most sort of frequently used, I think, the Chibo, or for higher educations like Moodle, Canvas, all these, or Desire to Learn, DTL. I forgot the name, Brightspace, which is the thing used in both corporate and higher education, and all of them have standardized interfaces for their plugins, and virtual lab or coding lab can work as this plugin. We definitely recommend Alemira LMS to use as a shell, as an environment, because there are some kind of much nicer integrations, and there is more importantly there is higher fidelity of information, so to speak, flowing back and forth. But you can use again, you can use virtual coding labs with any LMS, and it does not require practicum, right? What practicum adds, and practicum, you can say it's sort of a add-on to the LMS, not to the lab, right? And what practicum adds is project-based organization of learning and collaboration between the group, right? So basically, project-based organizations means you create a group of people that work on the same sort of goal, right? And then you can build an environment for them to collaborate very nicely and in a very engaging manner, using sort of standard tools, but the user experience will be different and like more streamlined, more engaging, right? So again, it's not really, it's orthogonal to the lab. You can actually use practicum without the lab, right? So you can imagine without coding or virtual lab, imagine you teaching history, or I don't know, you're teaching sales techniques to the salespeople, right? And they will have a project to, I don't know, sell something to somebody, which requires multiple exercises, right? And or multiple kind of phases, I don't know, multiple milestones. But you don't have a lab for that, so you can just deploy the practicum. It will work with any LMS, and it's just about organizing it's about organizing your learning process a little differently, right? So you can use them independently, but we find that the best way to use them is together. For example, to organize an effective bootcamp, and you know examples of like coding bootcamps, right? Starting from, yeah, I don't know, I just sort of, I forgot the names off the top of my head. But anyway, but an effective bootcamp is essentially a combination of coding labs and a practicum and a project-based collaborative environment for the students who will use these labs to sort of advance their skills in programming. So the short answer, sorry for the like a very long answer, but the short answer is you can use practicum and coding labs independently, but using them together will probably be more beneficial for you.
Thank you, Ilya. Thank you. I think that's it. I would just like to wrap it up, like the reasons why you should actually use Alemira and request the demo. This is the actually email where you can just write to us if you have any other questions, or to request demo, and we will be able to show you. So basically with SIT Alemira, you will be able to customize the learning experience for your employees, for partners, for clients in a cost-effective way. So this will completely transform your onboarding process to build a stronger and more productive team. And you can utilize your corporate training to increase performance and to get actually measurable returns on investment. So leverage your in-house training to create unparalleled networking opportunities. And all of these are the reasons why you should start maybe with a demo, and then we will be able to show you everything what's needed, and to personalize completely this experience for you. Thank you, Ilya, for joining us today. Thank you all for watching this webinar. And please, if you have any other questions, write to us to this email address, and we will be able to answer all of them. Thank you once again.
Thanks everyone for coming. Goodbye now.
Bye.